إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى أهله ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Alhamdulillah, we have been taking for some time now the book Az-zakaat fi-l-Islaam Fi-Dh-Dhawi-l-Kitaab was-Sunnah, written by Al-Sheikh, الدكتور Sa'id ibn Ali ibn Wahf ibn Muhammad Al-Qahtaani rahimahullah, passed away on Yaum al-ithain, the 21st of Muharram, 1440. May Allah reward him for the book and other books and works that he has done for the Ummah. Alhamdulillah. So we took the book, we did a revision of it, ended that revision last weekend. Today, bi'idhnillah, will be the last class. We will be taking questions and answers. You'll ask questions, I will also ask questions, and we'll learn the answers together, bi'idhnillah. So this is what we'll do today, bi'idhnillah. Now, so let us start with a question that I received, and it says, is it possible that someone pays zakah more than once annually? For instance, someone was already paying zakah before and then earned money that exceeds the nisab. Okay, barakallahu fiqh. First of all, if you are paying zakah on an item, then you want to know what category that item is in. Is it in Bahimatul An'am as-Sa'ima, free-range non-walking animals? If it is there, in what group? Is it a camel group? Is it the cow group? Is it the sheep group? So you want to know, so that you know from that the nisab of that wealth. Do you have it? And then what are you going to extract from that nisab that you have? In this case, the person is talking about money that you have. So money, the fiat money that we have now, is a representative of either gold or silver. It is a representative of either gold or silver. These are the two, these were the two currencies. And they are the two currencies that are the primary source of trading, of affixing prices to things that the Sharia recognizes. Initially, the fiat, paper money that we're spending was a receipt for gold or silver that was stored somewhere. So it was called representative money, that receipt. Then later it became fiat money because it wasn't supported by any gold or silver somewhere, but it still played the role that gold and silver currency played in terms of fixing prices and paying for things. So therefore, because it's playing the role of these two metals, gold and silver, it will carry the same ruling as gold and silver in the aspect of, fixing prices and the issues of zakah related to Afman, the currencies that are used to fix prices and pay for things. That's gold and silver. So we group them together. That's why we're talking about this. Since it has the same ruling, if you have money, currency, fiat money, it is treated along with gold that you have or along with silver that you have, because it's representing either of the two. But we do not mix gold and silver together, because each one of them has its own nisab. Each one of them has its own nisab. Since currency is representing, both of them, then the nisab of currency, fiat money, will be either of them. And they told us, the scholars, that we will choose adna and nisabain, the least of the two nisab. If the currency you have, the fiat money you have, is not equivalent to the nisab of gold, then you ask, is it equivalent to the nisab of silver? Whichever it is equivalent to, then that money is zakatable. Now, if that money isn't up to the nisab, then you ask yourself, how much of silver do I have? You add it to it. Or if it's gold that you have, you add it to the gold. You add the currency to the gold. With that understood, we go to the third in that group that we put together, and that is trade goods. So the trade goods are also representative of gold, silver, and fiat money. The person dealing in buying and selling is not interested in the wares, the products, the goods that he's selling per se. What he needs is money, which is a representative of gold and silver. So, meaning what he actually needs is gold and silver that we're able to spend, or the representative of gold and silver that he will be able to spend. So if he puts these things under his pillow, they won't grow. So he uses the trading as the excuse to grow this wealth. So if we have money with us, with that fiat money, we add it to gold and we add it to trade goods, or the money plus silver and trade goods, either of those two ways of doing it. When the total is equal and their nisab is the same, likewise, the nisab, if we add the currency to gold and trade goods, then the nisab will be the nisab of gold. That is 85 grams, according to the most frequently quoted value of the nisab in gold. If we're adding fiat money to silver and trade goods, then the nisab will be 595 grams of silver, according to the most often quoted weight, that is the nisab of silver. So either one of these nisab that it meets, we pay zakah, and the zakah that we pay on both is the same, rubu' al-ushri. Rubu' al-ushri. So this is what's a quarter of a tenth, which is 1/40, which is 2.5%. Now, with this on the preliminary understood, someone now attains the nisab by adding up three things in either of the two ways that we talk about: fiat money, silver, and trade goods that he has, or fiat money, gold, and trade goods that he have. He now hits the nisab or even above the nisab. And it is time to pay zakah. He will pay the zakah. He will start counting when to pay the zakah from the time the nisab hits those addition of three, either currency, trade goods, and gold, or currency, trade goods, and silver, when it reaches the nisab that we talked about. Once it reaches that nisab, that will be the day one of his counting. They will count that way for one lunar calendar to arrive. Then he will pay his zakah on that wealth that reached the nisab, on that first day that he started counting. Now, for this category of things, he has already hit the nisab. So any new money that comes in after that, the scholars refer to it as al-mal al-mustafad, money that one benefits from, i.e. new money that comes in. So any new money that comes in, what one needs to ask is this new money that came in a result of the old money, or is it new money entirely divorced from the old money? New money can be from the old money if you invested the old money, and the new money is a profit of the old money. Then in that case, this new money that came in will be paid. You will add it to the old money and you pay zakah at the time when zakat is due on the old money. The scholars say, hawlu rubhi, hawlu ra'si al-mal. The hawl, the time that 1 year will clock for new money that came in, is the time that you are going to pay money on the capital that gave birth to it. The same thing applies when you're dealing with non-working animals, non-working free-range animals of the cattle, or the camel, cattle, and sheep family. If they give birth 1 hour, 1 minute before the time to pay zakat on their parents' clocks, then you add them to their parents and pay zakat on it altogether. Now, so this is new money, one way coming from the old money. If the new money coming in is entirely divorced from the old money, like in the case of someone who receives a salary in Muharram, he added it to silver that he may have, he added to trade goods that he may have, and so for some people, all they have is just the salary. Whatever the case is, it is not up to the nisab. Then another salary comes in and suffered, and it hits the nisab at that time. So he starts counting the hawl from suffered, meaning he will pay the zakat when 1 year clocks, which will be what? In Muharram of the following year. In Muharram of the following year. If what he owns, or if the money that he has stored does not go or does not dip below the nisab during that 1 year, that lunar year. If it dips, whenever the nisab, or whenever what he owns dips below the nisab, he will not, need to pay. The hawl becomes truncated. You will have to restart the hawl when the money goes back to hitting the nisab. Remember, nisab is one of the requirements for paying of zakah, for zakah being compulsory on one. Okay. With that understood, this new money that came in that is divorced from the old money, he doesn't need to ask, have I hit the nisab for this wealth? Because he has already hit the nisab, and the nisab, where he hit the nisab in Safar. So, and the nisab has not dipped below, the wealth has not dipped below the nisab. So this new money that came in when the wealth with the owner had already tick the box of the nisab. So he has two choices. He has one choice of starting a new howl for this money that came in Rabiul Awwal. So the salary that came in the following month after Safar Rabiul Awwal, he will start counting another howl for that. Meaning, when 12 months will clock the following year on what? Safar. The salary that comes in, we are assuming that he saves, all of it or whatever portion of it, now, but the sum total that is with him is above the nisab. So the salary that comes in Rabiul-Thani, he saves that also, meaning for that batch, he's going to pay zakah in Rabiul Awwal of the following year, like that. So this is one way of doing it. One way of doing it will need your attention to be able to determine, to determine the things that are related to the payment of zakat there. How much came in? How much are you going to? How long has it been with you? And how you're going to pay zakat on it. So that's one option, and it is. It should. That's one option. The second option is an easier one. You, when it is, you hit the nisab in Safar. So when it is Muharram, when you're going to pay, you just count all that you have in that category of money, of trade goods and gold, or money, trade goods and silver, and you pay zakat on it. In that case, you will have paid zakat on all the wealth that came in to you from Rabiul Awwal of the previous year up until Muharram of the following year. And this method, what you have done is for everything that came in after Safar, you have paid their zakat in advance. So yes, to the question, is it possible that someone pays zakat every month? Yes, if it's choosing the first, if it's choosing the first option. Not only can it be every month, it can be every week, it can be every day, depending on the frequency at which new wealth comes to you. That new wealth being divorced, not a product of the old wealth that you have. Now, Barakallah fikum. Is that question clear? Is that answer clear? Is that answer clear?
Yes. Yes. Good.
Okay. The number two, if someone has an investment in real estate that he intends to sell in a few years, would it be necessary to calculate the worth of the investments each year to pay the zakah? Yes. Each year he calculates what the zakat on that real estate is worth, and he has two options. If he is liquid, then can afford to pay, then he should pay. If he's not liquid and only gets money when he sells the property, then he just notes, okay, this year, this is how much it's the real estate is worth, and 2.5% of it is this. the following year, until he until it is time to pay, until he sells, then he pays the backlog that he has. And it would be nice to have a will where you put this in so that your waratha, those who will inherit you, your inheritors, will be able to note this and extract it from whatever you leave behind before they share. And of course, let's say it is 10,000, for instance, that the real estate is worth. And let us also imagine that that is above the nisab. So the first year when you pay, the first year when in the first year you will estimate the property, okay, it's 10,000, fine. So you pay 2.5% of it, meaning, or you note that if let's say like the case where you you're not you're not paying because you're not liquid, then you value it. The first year is 10,000, you pay 2.5%, of that. The second year, you value it. How much is it worth now? You pay 2.5% of that also, like that. So that is it on that. If someone has an expense and intends to sell in a few years, will it be necessary to calculate the net worth of the investment each year to pay this out? So, alhamdulillah, that question has been answered. So, do we have any question that we didn't submit that we want to ask now? Okay, I have questions. So, what are the conditions that, if they are present, one will need to pay zakah? One will have to pay zakah. What are the conditions that must be present before zakah becomes compulsory on one?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So I can try to name a few of them, if not all of them, inshallah. So the first condition is Islam.
Okay. Islam meaning?
That person must be a Muslim.
Meaning?
It must be free. I wanted to get to that.
Okay.
Islam. It must be
Islam.
Islam, then the person must be free, not a slave. Because
okay.
The slave is old.
No.
And then the person must have a sound mind, not insane in any way. The person must have wealth that is above the nisab and consistently stay above the nisab for one lunar calendar year.
Barakallahu fikum.
And is on certain properties or commodities.
Okay.
Gold, silver, and things like that.
Okay. Barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum. Does anyone have anything to add to that or subtract on that? Okay. First, Islam, meaning that the person has the shahadatain, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. He believes in his heart, he says with his tongue, and he does with his limbs what is incumbent to be done when you believe in ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. The second of those things or one of those things that are necessary that are compulsory when you believe in a shahadatain, you must also have them. That is the salah. There must be somebody who observes salah. So someone who only observes Salatul Jumu'ah, or he observes Salatul Eidain, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. These are the only things that he owes Allah in his own mind. Then this one is not a Muslim. He doesn't have Islam, even if his name is Abdullah. So Islam, that is what we mean by that. Then he must not be a slave. That is the second thing. Because, as was rightly said, a slave is property. He doesn't own anything. Number 3 that was mentioned is that it should not be insane. That is not a condition for payment of zakah. The scholars have the laws of Islam minus zakah. You have to have 2 things. Or the laws of Islam, apart from zakah, apply to the mukallaf. The mukallaf is someone that has 2 things. He has his intellect with him, he's not insane, and he is baligh. He has attained the age of purity, or not the age, the physical manifestation of puberty. He has attained puberty. So if these 2 things are there, the laws of Islam apply to him. However, zakat is an exception to that, because the laws governing zakat are not on the individual. They are on the wealth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ, take from their wealth. So the scholars paint this or express this by saying that Az-zakah wajibun ala al-mal muta'alliqun bil-dhimma, that the zakah is upon the wealth, but it is linked to responsibility of the one who owns the wealth. That is why if somebody is not available to pay zakah, and we have access, the government has access to his wealth, then the government will extract zakat from it. If he's a Muslim, all other conditions for payment of zakah being present. Likewise, a child who inherits wealth. Likewise, an insane person who has wealth with him. All these will pay zakah. In the case of a child, he may or may not even understand what the Sharia wants him to do yet. Maybe a day-old child, maybe, you know, well, it can't be a day-old child and be able to pay zakah, because one howl will not have, you know, will not have clocked. So it can be a 1-year-old child. He doesn't understand, you know, what you're asking him to, you know, what the Sharia is asking him to do. He'll still play zakah. He's not baligh yet, and he's also doesn't have his intellect with him in the way the Sharia, you know, wants. Having your intellect with you is that aqil. You should, when you're told the Sharia says this, you understand what the Sharia has asked you to do and you comply. The child, a 1-year-old child, is not yet at that level. An insane person, he may be a baligh, an insane adult, but he doesn't have his intellect with him. So the laws of the Sharia do not apply to him, except for the exception there is the zakah, because the zakah is not on him primarily. It is on the wealth that he owes, but it is linked to him. You say, okay, this wealth is a zakatable amount of is a zakatable type of wealth, and it's also of a zakatable amount that's written in somewhere is above it. So we are going to collect zakat on it. If the one who is linked to that wealth meets these conditions, is a Muslim, is free. Now, and 1 year has clocked and all that. So that is with respect to, sanity or otherwise. Then as was rightly said, the fourth thing, that money must be at or above the nisab, or that wealth. Let's not limit it to money. That wealth must be at or above the nisab. There must be milk tam.
Okay, so if the wealth goes down below the nisab, so he's obliged to like truncate and start the counting again.
Yes, according to the more correct opinion of the scholars on it. Some scholars just look at when it hits the nisab, and if it hits the nisab before the howl is completed. So they will discount what is in between. So, but there's no, we can't say that the howl, what do you call it? We can't say that one howl is a requirement for zakat being compulsory, and then we discount, what is between the howl. Just as we will not say if somebody is a Muslim at the beginning of the howl and is a Muslim at the end of the howl, but it was a kafir in between, and would not take that into consideration, what is in between. No, if he loses any of the requirements for paying zakat before the then the counting truncates. Now, so the money must be, the owner of that wealth must have milk tam of that wealth. So if you have money that is a trust, a waqf, then there's no zakah on it because it doesn't belong to one person. So if you have money that is shared, maybe you set up a company, something like that, then there's no zakat on it as the wealth of the company. What there is zakat on is what share of that company money belongs to Abdullah, Abdurrahman, and so forth. Each person will look at what he has. If on its own or adding to gold or silver and trade goods, then he pays the zakat on that. If not, then there's no zakat to be paid on that. So it must have milk tam. It must have 100% ownership of that wealth that is to pay zakat on. Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh.
Please, I have a question with regards to that.
Okay.
But now, with regards to the company, what if the owners of the company, for example, the two of them are Muslim and they are like they qualify for all the necessary requirements?
No.
Can they still like go ahead and do it in the name of the company and say, okay, we'll be doing our zakat together as a company, or they still have to share that money? The second question I have, a little bit linked, but it's not linked, is the wealth of orphan. Let's say not one orphan, for example, there are like multiple orphans, but all of them are still very young. They don't even know what money is all about. But the guardian, they have a lot of wealth that can be given on this wealth on their behalf, or on behalf of the wealth, if I may say that.
No, barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum. Now, with regards to the company is not a mukallaf. We just talked about what a mukallaf is. A human being who has intellect and has attained puberty. Neither of those two characteristics can be ascribed to a company. There's only a mukallaf that is under the obligation of the Sharia. So therefore, what each person is required to do is look at his own share in that company. There are going to be shareholders in the company. So each shareholder should look at his own share and pay zakat out of that. This is the more correct opinion of the scholars on it. There are scholars who say that the person should pay, the company should pay, zakat. They say because in legal terms, the company is also referred to as a person. So they say it is a legal person, not a natural person. Human beings are classified as natural persons, while the company is, a legal person. A legal person can either be a natural person or like a company, whilst a natural person is a human being. But these characteristics came, weren't revealed characteristics of a person in Islam. So they are more recent, classifications of things and all that. So they do not apply. A company cannot be a Muslim. It is the shareholders that can be Muslims. So each person looks at his share and pays the zakah based on that. If it is above the nisab and it has other characteristics that make payment of zakah to be compulsory. The second question with regards to orphans, the scholars, like we said, mentioned that zakah is upon the wealth, but linked to the responsibility of the one who pays it. So therefore, the orphan, the insane person, the senile, old man who have wealth that is zakatable and has hit the nisab, it is their wali that has the responsibility now. So they themselves do not have the responsibility whilst in that state that they are in. But whenever that happens to be the case, then they have a wali who, takes over responsibility. Just like Allah says with regards to, someone that takes a debt. So someone who cannot, enter into a contract himself, Allah says, فَلْيُمْلِلْ وَلِيُّهُ بِالْعَدْلِ. Then his wali should dictate the terms of the contract bil-adl, with justice. So there's still somebody that the responsibility is upon. So you have the wealth and you have someone that the responsibility is upon. Those are the two things that are needed, and they'll pay zakah based on that. But of course, it is advised that whoever is going to be this wali should invest the money in the best way that he can. That if this wealth were his own, this is what he would do. Well, not necessarily that, but actually the way, because some people, even with their own wealth, they are careless. So what will be required is to invest it in the best way that the Sharia, would approve. Should invest it so that it doesn't become eaten up by, zakah before the child grows up. Okay, exactly. The instance, the only instance where payment of that we have text for, where payment of zakah on a company is permissible, is in the case of free-range non-walking animals, al-mashia, al-bahimat al-am, as-sa'ima, non-walking free-range animals of the camel, cattle, and sheep family. If the shareholders arrange the company such that the livestock that we talked about have the same shepherd, they share the same shepherd, they share the same food, they share the same drink, they share the same housing, they share the same, bull that, fertilizes, them. then they are treated as if they belong to one person. They are treated as if they belong to one person, and therefore you pay zakah, in that instance, as if it was one person that owned it. Not that the company, but the Sharia treats it as if it is one of them. Because as I said, the company cannot be a payer of zakah. It doesn't have Islam, and it is owned. It's like a slave, the company. It is whatever the shareholders wish that they would do with the company. So for these reasons, the zakah is not on the company, but it is on one of them. It's not that it was one of them, but it's treated as if it is on one of them, and he pays that way. And this is important. Sorry. And this is important because of what we learned a couple of, in the last few classes in revision, that let us take camels, for instance. If you have 5 to 9 camels, you're going to pay 1 sheep. You have 10 to 15 camels, or 14 camels, 10 to 14 camels, you're going to pay 2 sheep. Now, if if it was a company paying the zakah and it has 14 camels, then it's going to pay how many camels? It's going to pay 2. But if there are 5 shareholders that own the camels, okay, let's go to 15 band. If you have 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 15 to 19 camels, let's say you have 15 camels, so you're going to pay 3 sheep if it was a company that was paying it, because it'd be treated as if it was one person, paying it. But if we have 5 shareholders, each one of them having equal shares, then each one of them is going to have 3 camels. 1 to 4 camels, there's no zakah. So you'll be treating them unjustly if you look at it as a company, rather than looking at it as individuals. We are looking at this case where they don't share the things in common that we talked about. But if they share the things that we talked about in common, then we treat them as one individual. That will not be treating them injustice, because that is what we have text for. Outside of Mashia, then there's no exemption. If people have a company and they have equal shares in it, or whatever shares in it, and the share of each one of them is not up to the nisab, but if we put the money together, it is above the nisab, and we, go and extract zakah based on that, then we've been unjust to them, because each person's share is not up to the nisab. The same will apply if some people's share is up to the nisab, others are not, but we treat everything as a company, and we ask the company to pay, because the wealth owned by the company is at or above the nisab. We will have treated the people who, whose share is above the nisab, but we will actually have encouraged them to pay less, because what they will have paid now will be less, because we are treating the company as a whole, and so we are averaging out. People that shouldn't ordinarily pay zakat are now taking that obligation of paying zakat off some people. So rather than paying something higher, the people who should ordinarily pay zakat are paying less, and the people who should not pay zakah are paying something. So this is part of the problem with looking at a company as an individual, as a person, in modern day legal, way of looking at things now. I hope that is clear.
No, yes, sir.
Okay. So we said Islam, Hurriya, being free. Then that milk, the ownership should be 100%. I will just explain that in a couple of ways. That ownership should also be mustaqir. The ownership of the wealth should also be mustaqir. Money that is yet to come in, that you've been promised, that it has been signed on paper that is yours, is not yet yours until it comes in when you receive it. Money that you had, but you do not have access to, it's been frozen, or something has happened to it that you don't have access to it, is also not yours. Money that you lent to somebody that that says you didn't lend him money, you don't have proof for it, there's no zakah on it. But in between that is money that is with you, and you're able to exert jurisdiction over it. Then that is money that is mustaqil. You're going to pay zakah on that. That money should be with you. That wealth, not only money, that wealth must be zakatable type of wealth, either gold or silver or trade goods or currency or mashia, that is Bahimatul An'am as-Sa'ima, livestock of those three categories we talked about, camel, cattle, and sheep, or it is rikaz, or it is barley, wheat, raisins, and dates. And finally, ores. Rikaz is wealth buried in the time of Jahiliyyah and unearthed on land, buried on land during the time of Jahiliyyah and unearthed during the time of Islam. While ores are anything that is in the earth, but not sand. So these are the things that are zakatable. Then it should reach the nisab. The nisab is one of the requirements for zakat being compulsory on one. So when it's the nisab for each of those categories is known. For gold, is 85 grams. For silver, 595 grams. For currency and trade goods, it's either the nisab of gold that you go with or the nisab of silver. You go with the one that is less, that is lesser of the two nisabs, either the gold or silver. Historically, silver has always been less. The nisab for silver has always been less. A lot of people, overlook this and think it's only gold. Some of the scholars hold that opinion too. But the more correct opinion is adna and nisabain. So you need the nisab. For camels, it's 5 camels. For cows, 30 cows. For sheep, either goats or ram or whatever, it is 40. Once you have this, then you have attained the nisab. So for gold, silver, trade goods, and currency, you pay 2.5% as zakat. For the livestock, we have looked at that. You pay them as we, learned in class, without having to go back to that. For barley, wheat, dates, and raisins, the nisab is 5 awsuq. So when you have this, the question you ask yourself, you have this quantity, a volume-based quantity. Some of the scholars, rahimahullah, try to, especially the modern day scholars, they try to affix grammage to that. But this is highly, highly error-prone. Because even from the same tree, the dates you harvest have different weights, have different, sizes, have different. So if you measure, then you get different. Likewise for wheat, likewise for barley, likewise for raisins. Raisins are dried grapes. So when the grape itself, before it's dried on the same tree, They have different weights. When you dry them, each one loses water differently from, the other. So you get different weights. So what we have text for talks about awsuq, which is volume-based measurement. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So based on what you've taken, like even if you have something like rice or maize, then there's no zakah on it, even if it has like similar properties to some of things like barley or so.
Nah, barakallahu fikum, barakallahu fikum. Like we took in class, the scholars there are different scholarly opinions on it. Imam Abu Hanifa, Mathalan, said that anything that you grow, you pay zakah on it. And even for him, Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, there's no nisab. If you grow a teaspoon of rice or corn, whatever, you're going to pay, zakah on it. But the evidences are available. Perhaps he didn't see all those evidences. It's not the age of, it wasn't the age of Mr. Google, where you just, punch things in and, all the hadith you need will come to you. No. So he worked with the materials that he had at that time. And this was a decision, or rather, this was is a decision that he arrived at, or conclusion rather, that he arrived at. However, other scholars hold a different opinion. Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, looked at the farm produces that the Prophet ﷺ collected from the people: barley, wheat, dates, and raisins. And in looking at them, he saw that they are measurable. There are hadith that talk about wask, that anything less than 5, the Prophet ﷺ said, anything less than 5 awsuq, there's no zakah on it. So awsuq, as we just described, is a volume, not weight-based measurement. So from there, he said anything that is measurable. He expanded it. Said the reason why these 4, there's ijma of the scholars on them, is that they are measurable products. Not only that they are measurable, they're also storable products. You store them, they have a shelf life, a considerable, shelf life. So if something is measurable and storable, then, and the storable is using the technology available during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, in these days, there's hardly anything that isn't storable, because you can refrigerate, you can freeze dry, you can. So it's using the technology available when this was instituted that will go with. So based on that, measurable and storable, some of the scholars go with that, the Shafi'is. Then some of the scholars hold the opinion that there were things that were storable, like these 4: barley, wheat, dates, and raisins during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, but the Prophet ﷺ did not collect zakat on them. So let's limit ourselves to these 4, they said. And even more so when all the scholars agree that on these 4, anything outside these 4 is where there's divergent opinion. So we settled in this class for those 4 because we have text for them, and there's ijma of the scholars on them. So that is what we settled for in class. But as we always say, it is the opinion that one, based on knowledge, not whims, but based on knowledge, that one finds most attractive, that one should go for. Not attractive in the sense of what one likes, but attractive in terms of knowledge base. That to one, after reading the evidences, you see that this one is the weightiest based on the evidences that you see, that you have access to. So for some people, they believe that storable and measurable products, which will include rice, it won't include yam, because that's a countable product. People usually count things like that rather than measure them or weigh them normally. So, and the way you look at these things is based on what is common, not where or what is, what can be done, but rather what is commonly adopted. Now, I hope that's clear. I hope that is clear.
Yes, thank you. But that is not, how will I say, it's not linked in any way to Zakat al-Fitr, right? Like they are two separate things.
No, they are two separate. This is Zakat al-Mal.
Okay.
Now, this is Zakat al-Mal. So Zakat al-Fitr is it's not limited to wheat, barley, raisins, and dates. It is linked to what the people commonly eat, because there is a hadith where it said that the Prophet ﷺ also for Zakat al-Fitr, rather, that for Zakat al-Fitr the companions used to pay, used to give it out they mentioned in their staples, and also in the hadith where they were itemized, cheese was mentioned, akit was mentioned as one of the things that they will give out as zakat al-fitr. So cheese is not grown, is a processed product from milk, not so. So so the zakat al-mal is different from zakat al-fitr. Barakallahu feekum. Now, so back to the prerequisites of paying zakah. We talk about Islam, we talk about hurriya, which is freedom. We talk about milk, having 100% ownership of, or rather, before I get that, the third one, that it is a zakatable item, and we listed the things that are zakatable. Then that item should be owned 100%, with the exception that we talked about, where a group of people are treated as if they were one person. A company not being one of those instances, according to the more correct opinion of the scholars. That wealth that is owned 100% should be established in one's possession, not money that is about to come in but hasn't yet come in, or money that one does not have access to. Then finally, the one howl, one lunar calendar must pass. It's now January to December. It is one lunar calendar. It is one lunar calendar now. So once one, has done that, then these are the requirements, and zakah would be applied to anyone that has these requirements. Barakallahu feekum. Barakallahu feekum. So any other question? Okay.
No.
If there are no other, okay, please go ahead. Please go
I have
ahead.
a question about what's the ruling on someone who hasn't paid zakat for years, for instance, maybe because he was ignorant that zakat was due on him. Maybe like someone like a child, or like someone is barley, but he didn't know that he also pay zakat. So how would he pay back for the
Now, what he does is, once he knows he has a backlog, it is the way to easily see this is, if you owe money, and you haven't paid, and maybe let's even say the person now dies. Death does not a debt annul. Your debt will still be there, even though you are no more. Your debt will still be there. The same thing if you owe Allah anything. You owe Allah, fasting, that you didn't pay back. Whatever it is that you owe, either to Adamiyin, human beings, or to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remains a debt. That several years have passed does not cancel out the debt. That you have died does not cancel out the debt. A woman came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, my mother owed days, of fasting. Should I pay it on her behalf? What he asked is, if there was a debt to human beings on her, would you pay it? She said yes. He said, Dainullahi ahaqqu bil wafa. Then the dain owed to Allah is more deserving to be paid. So this person who has wealth, or because he was young, or maybe even he was an adult, didn't know that you're supposed to pay zakat, no problem. Pay it now that you know. Now, pay it now that you know. Barakallahu fi. Barakallahu fi. So, okay, go on.
Okay. Just want to add, for instance, if it's a little bit difficult he doesn't know exactly how much the wealth he had or the zakat you pay in those years. How would he estimate it?
No, barakallahu fi. The scholars have a maxim. They say, غَلَبَةُ الظَّنِّ يَحِلُّ مَحَالَ الْيَقِينِ. They say what is most preponderant takes the place of certainty whenever certainty cannot be arrived at. And they use it for almost anything. If you're observing Salah and you don't know how many rakas you have observed, is it 3 or 4? The first thing you have to do is to try and get certainty about the matter. If that is not possible, then you go to the next option, which is ghalabatul dhann, the most preponderant, that in my mind it appears 70% that it is 3 rakas. If that is what is most preponderant in your mind, then that is what you must go for. If you cannot attain ghalabatul dhann on this, but you know that for sure you have observed 2 rakas, then this is what you go for. So it's those 3-stage, thing with respect to Salah. So with respect to zakat. So the first thing you try to do is, okay, how much did I inherit from my father? How, and try to reach a certainty from that. There must have been you must have inherited some. You have inherited something from your father or your mother or whoever it is, and that thing has a value. Not so. Okay, so if you know the value exactly, that is what you go for. If you do not know, alhamdulillah, nowadays, even before, you try and ask the people, then that this type of property, what was the value? We're assuming that it's not currency now. If it's currency, then it's clear. You know how much it was that you inherited. So this, property, how much, what was its value, when I inherited it? What was its value 1 year, 1 lunar calendar after I inherited it? That is what is important. Then for that year, you note the worth, then 2.5% of it, if it is at or above the nisab, you pay 2.5%, of it as zakat. The following year, like that. If you don't have certainty, then look at other things, okay, that are similar to it, in terms of value. So you try to arrive, you don't have access to yaqeen, certainty now. So you escalate to ghalabatul dhann. You escalate to ghalabatul dhann. Allah la yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. So that's what Allah does not place a burden upon a soul beyond what it can, bear. So since certainty is impossible for you to arrive at, then you arrive at ghalabatul dhann. So once you have arrived at ghalabatul dhann, no problem. That you don't have certainty is not upon you. That you don't have certainty is the person that will be deceiving himself will be somebody who knows certainty. This one is more to, let's go for ghalabatul dhann. Allah is ar-Rahim. He will forgive us. So that is the person that is deceiving himself. Yeah. Did that answer the question? Okay, barakallah. The next thing is, okay, So we are talking, while we we're talking about the nisab. We talked about the nisab for gold, silver, trade goods, and currency. We said the nisab of all this is either, that we choose either the nisab for gold or silver based on the one that is easily attainable, that is attained first, either the nisab of gold or silver. The nisab of, livestock, we treated that. And what you pay in once you've reached the nisab, we also treated that. For the gold, silver, trade goods, and money, it's 2.5% that you pay out. For rikaz, it is 1/5. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Wa fi rikaz and khumus." So you pay 1/5 of its 20%. For farm produce, we said the nisab is 5 awsuq. Once you have this nisab, what we didn't add then was that you ask yourself, this farm produce, did I water it by irrigating myself, or it was naturally irrigated? The water supply and the land or rain or anything like that, without my contribution. If the answer is that you supply the irrigation, then you pay nisf al-ushur, half of 10%, which is 5%. If it was by natural means, then you pay 10%. If it was by natural means, then you pay 10%. So that for ores, the scholars differ upon it. Some say that it resembles more, it resembles farm produce more than other things. And some say it resembles gold and silver more than other things, because gold and silver themselves are ores extracted from the land. Allahu A'lam, this is the more correct opinion of that. So therefore, we'll give you the ruling of gold and silver, which will be, you go for adna nisabain, either the nisab of gold or the nisab of silver, and you pay 2.5% on that. Now, okay, what about the zakah? I have a question. If someone owes you money, how do you pay the zakah? Or what is the ruling on zakah on that? Someone owes you money and it's time for you to pay zakah, and you have either what is at or above the nisab with you, or it is only when you add that wealth that you have loaned out, that money that you have loaned out, that you would hit or be above the nisab. What is the ruling of zakah on that situation?
I think so. It depends on the situation. If the person is able to pay at any time, then you include it. But if the person is either denying or is not able to pay, then you don't add what you have done.
Barakallahu fiqh, barakallahu fiqh. So that's the most correct opinion of the scholars on that. Because if the person is denying, or if he doesn't have the means, Allah says, فَنَذِيرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ. You should wait until things are easy for him to pay. So Allah, who said that, will now not tell you to pay zakah on what he has told you to, wait until he's able to pay. And he may not pay. You don't know if that time of ease will ever come. Let's look at a situation. My father has a debt, and I am responsible for his upkeep. Can I give him zakah? When it's time for me to pay zakah, can I give him zakah? Or what is the more broadly, what is the ruling on paying my zakah to my father, who I am responsible for?
Yeah, it is allowed. you can give him zakah based on the hadith of the Prophet, in which, if I remember correctly, in which there was one of the Sahaba, the wife, realized that she had money and realized that the husband was poor, and she asked the question if she could pay, if she could give him zakah. And I think the Prophet allowed that to go. So if that can be said for the wife to the husband, it can also be said from the son to the father.
Okay, barakallahu fikum, barakallahu fikum. That hadith will go to the next, will fit more the next question, that I had, in this case, the debts, if you're going to pay zakat to someone, that person must not be somebody person must not be somebody that you are responsible for in a situation that you are responsible for. Two things. He must not be somebody that you are responsible for in a situation that you are responsible for. So, being responsible for my father does not cover the debts that he incurs, except if that debts, he got that debt because I did not fulfill my responsibilities to him. Maybe he has an upkeep, of 10,000 dirhams or 50,000 dirhams that I'm supposed to give him, and I didn't give him. Then so I have shirked my responsibility in that regard. So he goes out to collect a loan. So when it's time for me to pay zakah, and I say, okay, the zakah I want to give out is 50,000. Oh yeah, take. That will be gaming the system. What the Sharia requires of me is 100,000. 50,000 to my father as his upkeep, and 50,000 as zakah to anybody that is eligible. So in this case, I try to game the system by not giving my father the 50,000 of upkeep or for upkeep, and instead giving him 50,000 for zakah, so that it will doubly serve as his upkeep, my zakah and his upkeep. So this will not be permissible. But if I had given my father 50,000 and I want to pay zakah, and he had gotten a loan not to settle what I was, obliged to settle, then what do you call it? Then in that case, I can help him out with my zakah. That case, I can help him out with my zakah. The second question I wanted to ask, which is what Mustapha Sadiq just told us, is that the case of a wife to the husband, the wife is the responsibility of the husband. But it happens many times that the wife is wealthier than the husband, or the wife is wealthy and the husband is poor. Can the wife give money to her husband, give zakat as zakat money to her husband? The scholars differ on this, but the more correct opinion of the scholars is that she can. Some of the scholars say she can't. Those scholars that say that she can't, it is this gaming of the system that they look at. They say that if he gives her, if she gives him a zakat, he's already obliged by the Sharia to spend on her. So part or all of what she gives can come back to the man. Can come back to her. So it will be like gaming the system. Well, the scholars will say that it's permissible. They said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. She did not intend to game the system. The husband is poor and she is wealthy. She's paying zakah, and the husband qualifies to receive zakah like any other person. And she decided to pay the husband. The husband is not obliged to spend out of that zakat money on, on her, but is obliged to spend on her, which is broader. But at this point in time, this zakat money is all that he has. So, yes, the requirement to spend on her will now be limited to this zakat money. It's not as if they planned it. If they planned it, then that will be gaming the system. Like the wife says, okay, I'm going to give you my zakat money, give it back to me. Which goes back to another question. If somebody owes you money and you want to pay zakah, can you give that person your zakah? He owes you 10,000 dirhams and you want to pay zakah, 10,000 also, or more, or less. Can you give that person your zakah? The answer is yes, under a condition. Some people, what they will do is, okay, you owe me 10,000. I'm going to pay zakah. Okay. I'm freeing you of the zakah. I'm freeing you of the money that you owe me. So it's deducting the debts from the zakah he's going to give out. If I was going to give out 20,000 dirhams in zakah, so what he'll be left to give out now will be 10%. 10,000 dirhams. This is not permissible. This is not permissible. Why is it not permissible? The scholars say, in zakah, there is temlik. We say milk tam wal mustaqir. Not so. We looked at that milk tam and mustaqir in the perspective of the one who is giving. But it's not limited to that. It also applies to the one who is taken. When you have given, you must give it to him, and he must have milk tam and mustaqir of that money also. The Prophet ﷺ said to Mu'adh, فَعَلِمْهُمْ أَنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ افْتَرَضَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَدَقَةً. Tell them, the people of Yemen, that Allah has made compulsory on them zakah. تُؤْخَذْ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ, taken from their wealthy, فَتُرَدُّ إِلَى فُقَرَائِهِمْ, and given to their poor. So you must give to the recipients, and they must accept, take possession of it. So if you are deducting that you owe me 10,000, and I'm going to give out 10,000 or more or less as zakah, so if it's 10,000, let's do like that, say 10,000 or more as zakah. So what you owe me, I am going to deduct it from my zakah. So you're not owing me anything again. So I'll now give the remaining 10,000 that I'll give out. The 10,000 that I've forgiven you, debt forgiveness, and the 10,000 that I'm actually giving out. Then you haven't given out anything more than 10,000, even though what is upon you is 20,000. So the remaining 10,000 that you forgave is still upon you to give out. Your zakat to pay is 20,000. Give him 10,000 if you wish to give him, if he qualifies and you wish to give him. Then remaining 10,000, give someone else, or even give to him too. Don't have any arrangement with him, either overt or covert, either gentleman's agreement or written down, that he will give you part or all of what you have given him back so as to settle his debt. They also say that one of the reasons behind that the scholars have extracted for zakah, the institution of zakah, is muwasa, to console the recipients, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his wisdom has made you qualify for zakah. So don't think, that that is a punishment or anything. Allah has also instituted zakah to take from the wealthy to give you. Take. And he takes that and is joyous. He takes that and is happy. So when you forgive zakah, you haven't, hit that on the because remember he doesn't have the capacity to pay back. He's still poor, or falls into any of those other categories of receiving zakah. So give it to him. So there must be temlik. There must be temlik, and there must be no understanding or agreement between both of you that he's going to give you that money back. And you might not be the only one he owes money. So giving him and saying he should pay you back, there might be other people that he owes money and the date of paying back is closer than yours and all that things like that. So if someone owes you money and you want to give him zakah, give him the zakah. Don't reach any agreement or understanding with him that is going to pay you back. What are you going to pay out in zakah on farm produce?
No, yes, sir.
Yeah, what are you going to pay?
Yeah, for farm produce that is weighable and measurable, like barley and the like, you pay 10%. If it is wet watered by natural means, but if it is watered by irrigation, then we pay 5%.
Barakallahu fikum. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. What is the ruling on paying zakah on jewelry? What is the ruling on paying zakah on jewelry?
If the jewelry is for example, gold or silver, those are the two jewelries that we can pay zakat on.
Okay.
If they reach nisab,
No.
then we pay 2.5%.
Barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum. That is one of the answers, correct answers to it. The scholars differ with regards to to different aspects of jewelry. One of it is a woman's jewelry that she does not that she uses within one howl. If she doesn't use it for one howl, scholars, some of the scholars hold the opinion that she's going to pay zakah on it because it is something that is stored, not something that she's using as a personal thing. Some of the scholars say whether once it's a woman's jewelry, there's no zakah on it because because of personal effects, and there's no zakah on personal effects generally, whether jewelry or no jewelry. Some of the scholars say as long as it is gold or silver, whatever form or use it is put to, whether it is stored, whether it is used as jewelry and not used for a year, or it is used as jewelry and used for a year, she is to pay, within a year, she is to pay zakah on it. Because the texts that talk about paying zakat on gold and silver do not make any exceptions to what form of gold or silver or what use they are put to. And Allahu A'lam, this is the most correct opinion of the scholars on this. Then related to this, or still under this, is gold or silver that is owned or put to use in a haram way. So for instance, if a man has a golden necklace or golden earring that, you know, he uses, or golden watch, this is haram for men. So because he's not allowed to use it for that purpose, then it is compulsory on him to pay zakah on it. Remember, even this is even for the scholars who say that a woman's jewelry that she uses, there's no zakah on it. Even they say that the man who owns a gold necklace, watch, or anything like that must pay zakah on it. And the reason they say that is that gold and silver, ordinarily you pay zakah on that. That gold or silver being owned by a woman and she using it as a necklace is the only thing that exempts it from the general rule. So they say that general rule stands here. The person is not a woman. So therefore, he pays zakah. Also, if you have, whether you're a woman or a man, if you have gold or silver jewelry in the shape of animate things, like a fish or a person or anything like that, then you're going to pay zakah on it, because you are not allowed to make, you know, anything, whether gold or otherwise, in the form of animate things. So you're going to pay zakah on it. So when, even for those scholars that say that certain types of gold are exempted, they qualify it. That must be owned by a woman. It must be used for, you know, for in a halal, you know, way, and she must use it within a year. So it's not a stored thing. So this is on that.
Sorry, Ustaz. I have a question. You said the more correct opinion is that zakat should be paid on jewelry that a woman is using.
Yes.
So far it is gold.
No jewelry, if that jewelry is gold and silver.
Okay. So that is the more correct opinion.
Yes.
Even if she wears it every day.
Yes. Because the texts of the Quran and Hadith that's, you know, that talked about payment of zakah on gold and silver, just talked about payment of zakat on gold and silver. They didn't say, they didn't make exceptions that if you are going to, that if it's jewelry, then don't pay. Some of the people, you know, talked about hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, that she had orphans with her, and it was not recorded that she paid, and these orphans had, you know, gold jewelry, and it was not recorded that she paid zakat on them. Now, absence of evidence is not necessarily evidence of absence. Absence of knowledge about her paying zakat or not does not mean that she did not pay. It's not evidence that she did not pay zakat. Just like Aisha radiallahu anha, when she was asked about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam urinating while standing, she didn't know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did that. So therefore, she said that whoever says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam urinated while standing has lied. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would travel with men and everything like that, and he will have cause to urinate, and sometimes he urinated standing, and those who saw him, you know, narrated this. So Aisha's lack of evidence for that particular topic is not evidence that the Prophet ﷺ didn't do that. Each person narrated what he saw. So the same thing applies here, that it wasn't recorded that Aisha did not do it. Does not mean that she didn't do it. When the text of the Quran and Hadith talked in multiple places about payment of zakah on gold and silver. Now, I hope that is clear.
Yes, jazakumullah khair.
Wa alaikum, barakallahu fikum. Let's see. Can we list the recipients of zakah? Before Okay, there's this question before we go to that. This is good. I have money with me, fiat money, that is at or above the nisab. So I started counting the howl. 6 months into the howl, I used all that money to buy gold. And that gold that I bought is also at or above the nisab. When, let's say I started my howl, let's say I started my howl for the money in Muharram. I started counting in Muharram. So Muharram, Safar, Rabiul Awwal, Rabiul Thani, Jumad al-Awwal, Jumad al-Thani. In Jumad al-Thani, I bought the gold. When am I going to, I bought the gold that is at or above the nisab. When am I going to pay zakah? When am I going to pay zakah?
Okay, let me see. The money has been transformed from one form to the other.
Okay.
I think it's going to be, let me see. It's going to be Jumad al-Thani of the next year, not Muharram, because of the transformation.
Okay, you meant to say Jumad al-Awwal, because Jumad al-Thani will now be 13
Jumad
months.
al-Awwal.
Okay.
Okay, Jumad al-Awwal. At the end of Jumad al-Awwal, right?
No. Okay, Barakallah.
Okay, I guess.
Barakallah. Now, that is not the correct answer. Why? Because yes, truly, I've transformed the fiat money to gold. But remember what we said at the beginning of this class and several other times. Fiat money, trade goods, gold, they are one and the same. Fiat money, trade goods, silver, they are one and the same. So transforming or changing the wealth within any of these triplets is the same. It's the same because the nisab, as we said, is either the nisab of gold or the nisab of silver, whichever is attained first. And what you're going to pay on them is still the same ruble ushr, which is 2.5%. So if I have the money with me, there's no difference. If the same thing will apply if I have naira with me and I change it to dirhams in the second month. The third month I change it to dollars. No effect on it. The same way I have money with me that reaches in the sub, I change it to gold. Then later I change it to trade goods. Then I change it back to money within the same, howl. There's no difference. It doesn't truncate the counting of the howl. So it is actually in Dhul Hijjah. That's at the end of Dhul Hijjah. If we say I started counting at the first of Muharram, the howl, then the howl will end on the last day of Dhul Hijjah. That is when I'll pay zakah. Truncating of the howl, the counting of the howl will occur in two instances. If I'm changing between irreconcilable groups, either I'm changing from money to Bahimat al-Am as-Sa'ima now. I have money with me and I bought camels. The nisab for money is either the nisab of gold or the nisab of silver. That is not the nisab of camels. It's 5 camels. Also, within Mashia, if I have camels with me and I change, I say, oh, I'm not interested in keeping camels again. They're very stubborn. I'm going to buy sheep. And I sell off the camels and I buy sheep. The nisab are different. The nisab for camels, 5. The nisab for sheep, 40. And how much I'm going to pay in each also differs. How much I'm going to extract and pay out in each one of those also differs. So the howl will truncate, and I'll start again. Provided that I didn't do that in order to evade payment of zakah. If I did that in order to evade payment of zakah, then it hasn't truncated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though I, tell the zakat institution and they see that, okay, I changed, oh, you're not, liable to pay zakat yet. So wait till the next, the sheep that you bought, wait for one howl to clock. When it's 1 month before the next howl, I, buy camels back again. And they come, I bought camels, now. So let's start counting again. They will oblige you, but in the presence of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, you owe him now 2 years of zakah that you didn't pay. But if you didn't do that to evade zakah, then he holds. You have changed one type of nisab for another different type of nisab, or you even bought something that was not zakatable. You have gold with you. You started counting the 6th month. You decided to buy diamond. Diamond is not zakatable. Well, can we mention the recipients of zakah? Recipients of zakah. Walaikum salam wa barakatuh.
In Surah At-Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Surah At-Tawbah, Hayah 60.
No.
بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان إنما صدقة للفقراء والمساكين. Zakat is meant for the fuqara, the poor ones, and masakin, the needy. والعاملين عليها, the people that work in the Zakat Institute.
Barakallahu fikum.
والمؤلفات قلوبهم. المؤلفات قلوبهم, just to win soul, like to win people to Islam, to win the heart to Islam, and والرقاب وفي رقاب.
نعم.
الرقاب, I think
that's freeing of slaves.
Freeing of slaves, and والغارمين. That's
والغارمين.
والغارمين. The والغارمين, to pay debts, debt off people. وفي سبيل الله, to do fi sabilillah, to do fi sabilillah, wabn sabil, and for ibn sabil, that's the person on the road, a traveler that is stranded.
Barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum. So that's the 8 categories of people. Now, barakallahu fikum. The only addition or modification rather that I like to make to that is your definition of wa fi sabilillah. Some of the scholars hold what you said, which is that it is any act of good. But the more correct opinion is that it's not just any act of good. If it's any act of good, then that suffices. One of the things about the Quran is ijaz. Some, Allah presents things with small words that have deep meanings. So all the 8 categories are fi sabilillah. Why are you giving the poor? Why are you giving the needy? Why are you giving the person in zakat institution? Why are you trying to win souls, to the benefit of, or placate souls to the benefit of Islam? It's all fi sabilillah. It's all fi sabilillah. So the scholars that say it is fi sabilillah means any act of good, and they permit building mosques with it, building roads with it, sending people to school with it, and all that. But we said this is not the more correct opinion of the scholars, and the more correct opinion of it is that fi sabilillah is with regards to everything that is done for the maintenance of the sovereignty and security of the Muslim states, in fighting jihad, in preparing, paying the soldiers and all that. So this is wa fi-l-Islaam. Technically, in the Sharia, when the scholars mention fi-l-Islaam, what it means by default is this, except where the context accommodates for it to mean any good deed. So then with regards to winning souls, it is actually placating of the souls, or consoling the souls, or attracting the souls for the benefit of Islam. Some of these mu'allafati qulubuhum, they are not interested in coming to Islam. And we ourselves, we just say that it is only Allah that can bring them to Islam. So, but they are harmful to the Muslims. So once you placate their hearts so that they will remove their harm from Muslims. So it's, in effect, you are paying like a tax to them. So once we do that, they don't disturb the Muslims. And they prevent, some can even prevent others from disturbing the Muslims. They've paid, don't touch them. So this is part of it. Some, we see in them that they want to come into Islam. They just need a little push. So they are also under mu'alafati qulubuhum. Also, somebody who reconciles between Muslims. Two factions of Muslims are fighting, and a Muslim, resolves what is between them, stops the enmity by paying one or both parties, or there could even be multiple parties. So once he does this, he has the options. He can do that and say, I'm doing it as sadaqah, and I'm not expecting anything back except from Allah. He can also say, oh, this is reconciling between Muslims, which entitles me to zakah. And he goes to give the receipts to the Muslim state. And they, should pay him because he has done what is the duty of the Muslim states to do. He's done it as an individual. So you pay him, for that. So alhamdulillah, we with these questions, we'll stop here. There will always be questions, but we'll stop here, and we'll start something new at the next class. Bi-idhnillah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. What we'll be starting next class, inshallah, will tell us before the next class. We'll send it out as a broadcast to us, and we'll start from there. Bi-idhnillah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Barakallahu fikum for participating in the class. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant nastaghfiruka wa atubu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.